Anyway.
Want to accept it or not. And when you're intimate with somebody, whatever they got in them is about to come onto you. God isn't withholding good things.
I think that was unintentionally funny, wasn't it? She says, whatever they've got in them is going to come onto you. Yeah. I don't know if she meant it like that.
He actually created sex to be one of the most beautiful parts about life.
It's all very... There's a lot of hyperbole here, isn't there? It's all very over the top. Sex is one of the most beautiful parts of life. I mean, yes, it's great. Yes, it's very pleasurable. Yes, it's driven men to create cities and skyscrapers and skyrockets and, you know, all this kind of thing. It's an incredibly powerful, motivating thing. Is it incredibly beautiful? I mean, again, it can be. Under certain circumstances. It can also be something that is very casual. It can be something that is very kind of throwaway. It can be something that people just do because, you know, they enjoy it and they kind of like each other and they want to scratch that itch. I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's going to cause the downfall of Western civilization because people are having casual sex. I think there are far bigger things really for us to worry about, to be quite frank.
Actually so sacred that the enemy has perverted it so hard because he wants to destroy anything that God makes as sacred as sex.
Yeah, I mean, that's a bit nuts, isn't it? You know, the enemy. I mean, who is the enemy? She's talking about demons now. She's talking about Lucifer. And, I mean, let's analyze that again.
The enemy has perverted it so hard because he wants to destroy anything that God makes as sacred as sex. Yeah. God doesn't withhold it to be mean to us. He tells us to abstain because it leads to demonic oppression.
Demonic oppression. So basically, sex leads to demonic oppression. I mean, what does that even mean? What is demonic oppression? I mean, I don't even know what that means. I can't even decipher that, to be quite honest. If anybody can tell me what she means by that. But whenever somebody starts using the word demon in an argument, in a discourse, I start to tune out because it's a bit of a batshit thing to say, to be honest. You know, to believe in literal demons, which people out there do. It's pretty crazy. I mean, yeah, there are negative influences in life. There are negative things in life. Okay. The use of the word demon, I think, it's a deliberately weighted word to make this thing seem worse than it actually is. You know, what she's talking about is people having fun and hooking up and having a good time. It's not really the end of the world, right? I mean, that stuff's happening in Miami all summer, all year long. Okay. You know, Miami hasn't fallen. It's still standing. It's still there. People are still getting on with their lives and having a pretty good time. Now, listen, I'm not saying that just loads and loads of non-committal kind of sex without any meaning behind it is a great thing either. Of course, you can overdo anything. You can overdo eating sugar. I certainly do. You can overdo, you know, taking various substances. You can overdo drinking. There's loads of things that you can overdo and it can get you into trouble. But in moderation, like most of these things, actually the reality is sex is not that big of a deal. And she's making it seem like it's the end of the world. And she's talking about demonic oppression. I mean, what the fuck? Jesus. Anyway, let's have a look at this. What she says now.
It leads to demonic soul ties.
Demonic soul ties. What, you mean when you kind of like somebody? You know, you kind of fancy somebody and you guys are hooking up. That's a demonic soul tie. I mean, that's pretty... It's kind of insulting, really, isn't it, to relationships that people may have had when they weren't married. They weren't, you know, they weren't legally married, but there was love there, there was feeling there, there was affection there, there was care for each other there and everything. And she's calling it demonic soul ties. I mean, what the fuck? I mean, so basically what she's saying is that, you know, every girlfriend I've had, it was a demonic soul tie, which is A, crazy, and B, quite frankly, detrimental to, not detrimental, an insult to, you know, those relationships. Because just because somebody hasn't signed on the dotted line legally to get married, that doesn't undermine whatever the nature of that relationship was. And look, of course, what all of these people don't really address is the fact that marriage itself is a hugely bad deal for men in 2024 and, you know, over the last few decades, really. We all know the problems with marriage. For a start, half of all marriages are going to fail anyway. Infidelity is rife. 70% of marriages are finished by the woman. So the guy goes into it maybe with good intentions and then he gets dumped anyway. Then he loses half his assets, he loses the kids, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So marriage is not a good deal for guys, but she's saying that any kind of sexual intercourse that takes place outside of marriage is demonic oppression or you create demonic ties with other people. This is scaremongering. it's nonsense, but it's nonsense that is damaging because it is causing people to, you know, probably get into marriages that maybe they shouldn't, right? And not really consider what they should be doing properly.
Live in a spiritual world. We're spiritual beings, and this stuff is real.
Okay, that was it, I think, for that one. So yeah, you know, I mean, I think, as I say, anybody who starts talking about demons on a video is probably nuts, okay? Or at least is using very weighted sort of emotional language in order to create a feeling in the viewer, okay? Because the viewers listening to that go, oh my God, demons, oh my God, sex, it's about demons. And that's making them think, well, shit, now I need to get married, right? Because I don't want demons, I don't want demonic oppression, right? Whatever that means. Fine, that's obviously her message, that's her raison d'etre. But again, then what nobody takes into account, and we talked about this before on the stream when I was talking about Benny Johnson and those guys, what nobody takes into account is the fact that marriage is also a very bad deal and can leave people very, very unhappy and can create a terrible environment for children as well. You know, it's not this default thing whereby you just get married and it's going to be great and everyone's going to be happy. It doesn't work like that, okay? So, we've got some comments here. And please keep putting comments in the chat. I want to cover what you guys want me to, want to talk about, okay? I want to get your input on this, see what you think. So do put the comments in the chat and we'll go through them. I've been with my girl, this is Double JB, says, I've been with my girl 5 years and she's Hispanic. I can't remember the last time she told me no. We get along well, it's great, and we appreciate what both of us bring, and I don't have money. Okay, cool, sounds good. I think it's the difference between marriage under God, under government, stroke man. At the same time, I had many casual girls back in my 20s, and that was great too, of course. Reflection 2 says, everything has value, and everything has a lesson, good and bad. Reflection says, I think she's spot on. Okay. Okay, Reflection of You says, no, I'm not screwed. I think what she's saying about sex, I agree. That's interesting. So why do you agree? Why do you think it's a good idea? Because it seems to me, and we're going to talk about this in the next video, you kind of need to know what you're getting into with somebody, I would say. And there's compatibility on many levels, right? There's compatibility of, compatibility in terms of, do you get on with each other, right? Do you have sort of, if not shared interests, at least shared values and shared beliefs and all that kind of stuff, okay? Is that working? That's the first thing. Do you get on? Do you have a kind of a shared sort of plan that you guys can work towards, that you can, a future that you can imagine together? That's an important thing, okay? Another important thing is sexual compatibility. Because look, sex is the glue that binds a relationship together, all right? If you are going to be together for the next 50 years or whatever it is, whatever a marriage should really be, then you've got to be damn sure that at least the sexual side of things is working. Because if that isn't working, you're completely screwed, okay? Super, super important. You absolutely need to know how it goes with you and the person sexually before you commit, okay? It's really foolish not to do this. I mean, and again, I'm not even speaking against marriage here. Right? If you want to get married, but at least know what you're getting into. And part of that is this somebody I actually want to build a life with, right? And a big component of that is going to be sex, because that is the glue, as I say, that holds relationships together. And it's always the case, that you get with couples. When the sex starts to fall off, then there starts to be a problem, okay, in the relationship. And that's no good. That's a bad place to be, okay? So just take all of this stuff with a pinch of salt and be very, very careful when you see these people who are just so dogmatic in their approach, because you don't want to be the one who in 7 years time, because the average marriage lasts about 7 years, in 7 years time you're kicked to the curb, half your assets go, you don't get access to your kids, and the sex had died 4 years ago anyway, so you've been effectively celibate. I mean, it's not a great place to be, okay? Oh, right, okay, so marriage causes divorces in the UK. In the UK, you will lose around 70% of your assets if kids are involved. And then marriage causes divorces. Demonic soul tie equals, I don't want to take responsibility for my poor life choices. Yeah, I mean, you know, it's so melodramatic, isn't it? Demonic soul ties. I mean, what does she mean? She means you get with somebody and maybe it doesn't go so well. You know, I mean, boo fucking who, right? That's just life. It's not this the end of the world. It's not this satanic kind of. It's not something from the Book of Revelations. It's like, yeah, I dated this person and you know we had sex and then you know, but I wasn't really feeling it and then we broke up. I mean, it's the most normal thing in the world. Okay, it's not demonic soul ties. That's just complete bollocks. Jesus. Everyone has free will and can do as they please, think and feel, and live as they want, hence free will. Right? Okay. Troy, you've always had a realistic look at dating from what I've experienced. And Reflection says, I respect this man's belief in what he's saying. Okay, I think that refers to me. Thank you. Troy, how long are you saying people should wait to have sex? Well, I don't think... So look, I mean, a high-value guy, right, if you're a woman, a high-value guy is going to want to have sex with you fairly quickly, okay? Because he's got options, okay? You are not the only woman in the world. There are other women who are vying for his attention. He may even be sleeping with other women, okay? Now, the high-value guy is going to be thinking, look, I get it that, you know, maybe you're not somebody who wants to have sex on the first date, maybe even the second date. I get that. I respect that. However, look, we're not kids, okay? We're not children. We're adults. We know what this is about. If there is mutual attraction here, the obvious next stage is sex. And if you're not gonna, you know, if you seem to be holding back on that for some arbitrary reason, then that's a little bit immature. And also remember, the high value guy as well doesn't have time to be hanging around with somebody and it's very unclear where it's going. It's just a poor investment of time. And that's again not because men are all these like raging horn dogs who are just desperate to be satiated, although some of us are. But I mean, in general, it's not about that. It's just about, look, if we get on, you know, if you see the value in me, I see the value in you, there's clearly chemistry there, there's attraction there, then really, why isn't it going to move to the next stage very, you know, quite quickly? So I would say, you know, a couple of dates, 3 dates at max, and then really you want to be intimate together because firstly as well, it connects you closer together, and that's the other thing that she kind of ignores in that video. It's sort of like sex does connect you on a deeper level, and you get to understand one another in a way that you don't before you've had sex. And I think the real big problem about this is what happens if you get married. You're actually married. You've actually done the ceremony. You've got the rings are on. You're actually legally married. You've signed the papers, and now all of a sudden, you know, you go to the bedroom and then it's crap. I mean, what a fucking disaster that must be. Jesus Christ.